Okay, so let's get back to Docker's Getting Started tutorial and let's move on to part 3, update the application. And what we're going to do now is update our node.js application. The change that we're going to make is really minimal and is really not the point here. But the thing is that we want to have a somewhat different application, and you can think about this change like a newer version or something like that. So first, let's get back to Visual Studio Code and make the change in the application. And now we want to rebuild our image with the updated version of the application. And this time around it's much faster because we already have the Node 12 Alpine image, which is the image we're based on. Great, and the new image was created, and if we take a look at the Docker tab, we're going to see it here under the Getting Started image. And you can see that the latest tag was updated a few seconds ago. Let's now try to start a new container that's based on the updated image. And it failed, and we got an error. And we can see that it says port is already allocated. And that's because the previous container, the one we created before, is already bound to port 3000 in the host. So what are we going to do about that? First, we're going to get the ID of the container that's already running. And to do that, we're going to use the docker ps command. And here's the container's ID. Let's copy it. And we can also see that port 3000 in the host is bound to port 3000 within the container. So as we're told here, we're going to use the docker stop command to stop this container. So docker stop. And then I'm going to paste the ID of the container that I want to stop. And it was stopped. And if we run docker ps again, we can see that now we have no running containers. But if we take a look at the Docker tab, it seems like we still have something over here under containers. And the reason is that we see stopped containers. So we want to remove them. And we can do it in two ways. First, we can use the prune command over here, and it will remove all of the containers that are not currently running. The alternative is to use the docker rm command, and this is what we're going to do now. So as is written here, we're going to run docker rm and then paste the ID of the container that we want to remove, the same one that we stopped. Let's get back to the Docker tab, and now we have no containers over here. By the way, we can stop and remove a container in a single command by using the docker rm command with a -f flag, as is written over here. And if we now try to run our container, it was successfully created and started. And if we look for it in the Docker tab, we can see it over here. And we can see that its state is up, which means that it is running. Let's take a look at the application in the browser. And let's refresh the page. And now we're being served by a different container. And in this container, we didn't fill in any tasks yet. And that's why the list is empty. But we can see the effect of the change we made because this text is different than the one we had in the container we had before.